Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AIM on MS&T podcast. I'm your host, Kate, and I'm so glad you have joined us today. If you are new here, let's catch you up. AIM stands for Academia, Industry, and Military, which are the sectors that form the foundation of the modeling, simulation, and training community right here in Central Florida. Together, they make up what is known as Team Orlando, a collaborative partnership driving innovation and mission readiness through MS&T. Each episode, we sit down with leaders and innovators within the MS&T world to talk about what's new, what's next, and why it matters, especially to our Team Orlando community. Whether you're deep in the field or just curious about one of Orlando's biggest industries, second only to the theme parks and hospitality industry, we're here to keep you informed, inspired, and part of the conversation. This episode is brought to you in part by Capital Communications and Consulting, telling your story across all platforms with a clear focus and innovative impact. Whether you want to elevate your message, grow your presence, or connect with the right audience, the C3 team will help bring your story to life. Learn more at mycapitalcommunications.com. Today, our guest is Paul Sohl, CEO of the Florida High Tech Corridor. Thank you for joining us today. Let's get started. Can you please tell our audience a bit about yourself and walk us through your career journey and what led you to the Florida High Tech Corridor?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. It's great to be here, and thanks for the invitation. Short answer, Midwestern kid from Illinois, tortured middle brother with two sisters, decided that I wanted to be an engineer because that's what I was told. Went to school, realized that really what I wanted to do was fly fast jets. The Navy was there for me, and so that's what I got to do for 33 years, looking back. So never thought it was a career. Loved every second of it, what I got to do.
That's great.
And like I tell folks on the Navy side, the Navy's really good about getting you in, and they're really good about telling you when it's time to leave. So in 2019, it was time to go. They said, Paul, thanks for, here are some nice parting gifts. and had to decide, and I always hated that question as I got out, what are you going to do? I had no idea. Best bit of advice there in the transition was figure out what your guideposts are. For me, I wanted to feel like I was continuing to give back. And the other one my wife helped me with, which was, hey, you always seem to like it when you're learning something new. So that's what I used as a basis. And 6 months later, got a great call and was offered a chance to interview for CEO of the Florida High Tech Corridor. I had no idea what it was. I had to look it up. It seemed pretty interesting, and the more I studied this region, plus my wife said, gosh, we had a great time in Jacksonville for 4 years. It would be great to get back to Florida.
Yeah.
And so you jot that down kind of high on the priority list, and it all worked. Yeah, and so right at the beginning of COVID was when I got the job.
Okay.
So coming down here, and have loved it ever since.
After more than 3 decades in the U.S. Navy, what motivated your transition into regional economic and innovation leadership?
Yeah, so I'm chuckling because, and I'll just share with you and the audience, the best question, and we went through 2 sets of interviews. My bosses in the corridor are the 3 university presidents for UCF, USF, and UF. So at the time, the president of UF, Dr. Kent Fox, great man, said, and this goes right to the question, said, hey, Paul, you have this pretty good Navy career, but you don't know anything about economic development. And he was very kind. He said, do you care to comment? And I told him, I said, I think you have a lot of economic developers. I don't think that's what you need. And we continued to have that discussion, and I was blessed to be able to be picked as perhaps the outside candidate, somebody who didn't know a lot about that world, but that's really not what the corridor does. And so that's what led me then to this job, and I feel it's been a perfect fit, something that I never would have imagined would be available from from a post-Navy kind of career.
Now, for our listeners unfamiliar with the organization, how would you describe the mission and the strategic role of the Florida High Tech Corridor?
Yeah, and having not known what the heck the corridor does from the beginning, that's been an interesting journey as well. Fundamentally, what we do, we're a regional organization across 23 counties.
Okay.
Our mission is to build the innovation capacity of the region. Now, the next question you'll ask is, well, what is that? The unique thing that the corridor does, if you think about innovation and how important innovation is today in our economy, with our research universities and everything else. So what makes that happen?
Yeah.
In Florida, we have a lot of it. And we have a lot of it in certain geographic areas. A lot of times that's surrounded by university. UCF is a great example with the research park where we're sitting in right now.
Right.
USF, another great ecosystem. UF, great ecosystem of innovation. Space Coast, another ecosystem that's geographically in a spot doing a lot of neat things. What we do and building that innovation capacity of this region is tie these things together. That's fundamental to building that capacity. Is the individual organizations can do it, and then we really are one of the few organizations that kind of looks across a region and says, you know what, this thing called and we turned 30 this year.
Oh,
so it was named after the I-4 corridor from Tampa St. Pete to the Space Coast. And there were some visionaries at the time who put this together and said, if we don't do something like this, we could be missing out on the future of technology. And that's what we do is we get to play in this 23 county amazing it's just beautiful of the organizations that do, and we help tie it all together.
The corridor uniquely connects industry with major research universities. Why is this collaboration model so critical to regional innovation, and what differentiates you guys from other economic development initiatives regionally and nationally?
Yeah, so I'll start with the second part first. What makes us unique? Unique in Florida because there's no other regional organization that does this kind of work. That's not to say that there aren't great communities of innovation. There are, but we get a chance to kind of look across a specific region, which I think is unique in certainly in the state.
Yeah.
There are corridors like this across the country. We were blessed with a phone call from Virginia back early last year. So they are building a high-tech corridor between Richmond and Tidewater area.
Okay.
And they said, we are looking at what you all are doing down here in Florida and want to learn more.
Oh, that's cool.
So we're able to do that. Nationally, what that does for us is it gives us a chance to apply for and connect with federal organizations at the national level.
Right.
The program I would mention is Florida Fast, which is an SBA, Small Business Administration program, to help small and medium-sized companies. There's one organization per state that runs this program for the SBA, and we do it for the state of Florida. And so there are just some interesting things that happen when that occurs, because that puts the state of Florida on the map. And that's kind of cool too. And not just on the map from this country perspective, but also from a global perspective as well.
Now, how do you guys support high-tech companies at different stages of growth, particularly in emerging technologies or industry sectors as you see most promising?
Yeah, so another great question. I think what we do that's unique, because there are a whole spectrum of companies from very early startups. And I would say what we do there is one of the programs that we run called Senfluence, which is started originally by funding from Orange County, and we still get funding from Orange County on that, to build a set of clusters And then inside those clusters, free of charge for the companies to join, are small and medium-sized companies within certain verticals that are of interest to Orange County. Things like life sciences, learning sciences, human performance, energy and environment, gaming, entertainment, and immersive technologies, the whole idea of modeling and simulation, semiconductors. So we're able to connect with that program directly with small and medium-sized companies. And then what we do is regionally, we connect them with others like National Center for Simulation, like Starter Studio in downtown Orlando. Those programs where that founder who's they're busy, they're busy doing pretty innovative things, need some support. Hey, I need this grant. How do I do it? And so being able to work with other organizations across the corridor to help those founders engage and get that innovation going is kind of a sweet spot for us.
How does the Florida High Tech Corridor collaborate with Team Orlando to strengthen industry, workforce development, and regional innovation?
Yeah, so what's interesting about Team Orlando, and something having spent a number of years in the Navy working with NOC TSD and the other Team Orlando players in the Orlando area, is, I would say, in the world of dual use technologies. So when you think about it, there is, as you all know from the people that you've interviewed before in these podcasts, on the military side, on the Department of Defense side, a huge amount of investment in modeling, simulation, and training, and those kinds of things that are very important to the defense of our nation and the services that support that. How we connect is then to highlight for businesses on the commercial side, these small and medium-sized companies that have really interesting technologies, a lot of times in the commercial world, that don't know about an application that they might be able to do in the public sector, in the Department of Defense world. And it's that because often the languages they're different. Yeah. And small and medium-sized companies, they don't have time to learn this kind of stuff. So we're able to use Team Orlando, things like Tech Grove, relationships that DoD has with the universities, whether it's University of Central Florida, University of South Florida, University of Florida, Embry-Riddle, Florida Tech, Florida Poly, the state colleges, using those relationships to get the technology to where it needs to be able to accelerate it for the benefit of everybody.
What role do students and early career professionals play in the corridor's long-term vision, and how can industry leaders more effectively collaborate with educational institutions to close those gaps?
Yeah, it's a great question on what I would call our future leaders, our future innovators. And I would start as early as K through 12. So one of the things we do is we really do support really small organizations across the corridor that are already working with K through 12 students to get them excited about STEM. And it's not just the STEM piece, but it's the outcomes and the impacts that STEM education can have. Really cool stuff like robotics and space and deep sea submersible stuff. All those things that are important. And so we find those organizations, often invest in them, help them with resources. I also think about national groups like the First Robotics World. First Robotics, when it goes from First Lego League to First Tech Challenge to First Robotics, where you're going up the chain of students, getting exposure to Legos just aren't little blocks you piece together. You can actually, just go to a First Lego League championship round and you'll see computerized, totally by students. And one of the things that I think about as we're thinking about this particular topic is how important it is. Here's what industry wants. One of the things they want desperately in their students: students who have worked in teams before, students who understand that it's not just in the book, whether it's Boys and Girls Clubs or Scouts or First Robotics or Invention Convention, another great national organization, or the stuff they're doing up at the Cade Museum up in Gainesville. These youngsters are working on teams, and that is a skill set, I think, in the future that I know that it's in demand.
That's a good point.
As you talk to industry, for sure.
Now, what is your vision for the Florida High-Tech Corridor over the next 5 to 10 years, and how can Florida continue to strengthen its position as a competitive national and global technology hub?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're already on the path of being a technology hub because we're seeing it. And within the next month or two, Artemis 2 will launch. We think a lot of times about Florida and space. We think about launch as far as space goes. But if you just dig a little bit deeper, and this is what I tell anybody that will listen, if you just are a little bit more curious every day on what's happening in Florida, there are so many things that are tied to space. There are so many things that are tied to these sort of classic innovation verticals, aerospace, financial tech, all those things, that the magic in Florida, we can cross those verticals to do really super amazing things. And that includes modeling and simulation and what happens here. Those kind of things I think are just really important. And it's that if you ask any business right now, 3 things that are top of mind for them: talent, talent, talent. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. And so when you sit here, and as we're in Research Park and it can be across the corridor, being able to invest in the people that are getting kids excited for this kind of stuff, experiential learning, trying it out on their own, getting their hands dirty in robotics and playing around with simulated moon dust, those kinds of things. I think that's kind of the magic, and that's where you ask a question, where do you see corridor in 5 or 10 years? It'll continue to explode. And when I talk about the corridor is a who, it's not a what.
Okay.
It's these amazing people across these 23 counties that are very often forget the kinds of amazing things that they do. And so it's only going to get better. We will be known. I mean, it's happening already, and that will continue in the next 5 to 10 years for sure.
That's amazing. As we come to an end, we like to leave our listeners with this question. What advice would you offer someone who is considering going into a similar career path as you? In particular, what would you tell someone that you wish someone had told you when you were deciding your future career?
Yeah, I'll answer it on both the military side for the 33 years that I had in the Navy, and then now that I've been here almost 6 years, kind of the blessing of being in a role with just these great younger generation inventors. On the military side, there were so many times, including when I was ROTC at MIT. I was there, I was homesick. I got yelled at by a Marine staff sergeant. I said, this is not the place for me. I need to go home. And I talked to my dad, and he said, just stick it out. And I was upset, and he said, just stick it out. And so that would be the sort of one bit of advice, is give it some time. If you're thinking about, and this can be at both active duty and also what I think is super important in the Department of Defense, is we have these amazing civilians. I see so many kids who would like to serve, maybe don't want to put on a uniform. That's okay, because just stuff that's going on here, and the leadership that they're given as young civilians is second to none. So give it a chance to really sort of let it sink in. It may not work for you, and that's okay. We've got 3 great kids, and I've told them all, because they're all under 35, I said, look, you don't need to figure out what you want to do in life till you're at least 35. There are just so many other things that are happening. And then for perhaps it applies to folks that have gone on for a while in careers. Don't be afraid to make a change. Don't be afraid to, that fear. It's not a fear of failure. Go try things.
Yeah.
I noticed just in talking with our own kids and these young inventors that I guarantee you what they're not thinking about, and that is joining a company for 30 years and getting a pension.
That's a good point.
That has gone away.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to be able to sit and talk to them and say, ooh, that my earlier self would have said, that's super risky. I look back now and say, nah, just go do it. Just go try it. It has dramatically changed out there. I think Florida is just a great example of an opportunity to just try stuff and be a part of. I mean, I would never have in a million years thought that this job even existed, that this team even existed, and it's been a ton of fun.
That's some good advice. Before we sign off, where should our listeners go to find more about the Florida High Tech Corridor?
Yep, our website, floridahightech.com. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find our team. We got a team of 12 amazing folks. Most of them a lot younger than me, so I get to learn from them every day and doing some amazing stuff. As are every other sort of support organization that's out there for these amazing small and medium-sized companies in the high-tech world.
With that, I would like to thank Paul for joining us on here today. That's a wrap on this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Want to stay in the loop on what's happening in the modeling and simulation and Team Orlando communities? Head to teamorlando.org and follow us on LinkedIn, X, and Facebook for all the latest updates and upcoming events. If you're looking to spotlight your organization or share your voice on AIM on MS&T, sponsorship and guest opportunities are available. Contact us. The information will be in the description. Don't forget to follow AIM on MS&T on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye!